Okay, here we go with the Week 21 test video. Remember, these are problems similar to what you will see on the next test, so you want to make sure you feel comfortable with these. And if you watch the video and have any questions, you'll want to make sure you ask those questions. So the first question that you're given, titled Geometry Cross-Sections, this is identifying various parts of a figure. Identifying the figure name, in this case a triangular prism. And it's called a triangular prism because the base is the shape of a triangle. Right? That's not a very good triangle. Let me try that again. The base is the shape of a triangle. You know it's the base because it's one of two sides that are the same size. They're congruent. If I make a copy and slide that over, you'll see they're identical. And they are parallel to one another. So this figure also has three rectangular sides, but they are not parallel to one another. So the base then is that first side I drew, TUW right here, along with the second side that I drew, RSV. Those are the two bases. You'll notice those bases, when we get down to faces, they're also faces. So you have to remember, a base is also a face, but not every face gets to be a base. So for example, another face, one of the rectangles, is RUWV. You can see that face right here, RUWV. It can't be a base because it's not parallel and congruent to any other side. There are two more faces, the face RSTU and the face STWV. Then we get to the edges. This figure has 9 edges. You can visualize it takes 3 edges to make this triangle and 3 edges to make that triangle and 3 edges to connect them. And here are the 9 edges. It has 6 vertices. Whenever you see vertices, think of the words corners, or the word corners. The vertices are the corners of the shape. The nice thing about vertices is they're the ones that they label with a letter. So you can see there are 6 vertices, and each one is labeled with a letter. Finally, the skewed lines. For this figure, there are a bunch of pairs of skewed lines. Skewed lines are lines that do not connect, so they don't intersect, and they also do not run parallel to each other. Technically, they cannot be coplanar. We talked about planes, like sheets of paper that go in ever for 2 directions. Well, when you have skewed lines, they are lines that will not connect and are not coplanar. They won't touch each other. So TU, let's just draw this skewed line. You have the line TU running right here as an edge, and then you have another edge running across the back of the figure right there. Now, in a 2-dimensional place, you might say, well, wait a minute, they do cross. They cross right there. But that doesn't really happen. If you want to visualize, put your 2 fingers out in front like a cross, but don't let them touch. If you look at them, it looks like they touch each other, but you know if you turn it sideways a bit, you can see they're not actually touching. That would be what skewed lines look like. So there were a bunch of skewed lines. TU and VW were the pair that I gave you when we started correcting. And then as we corrected, your classmates came up with more skewed lines. Let's just draw a little part around here, and everything that's going to come next, everything that we're going to put over here are the skewed lines that we found. So we also found SV and RU. We found the skewed lines TW and RS. We found the skewed lines UW and SV. Again, these are all pairs of lines that do not intersect and are not parallel. There was another pair, STRV. Let's pause for just a minute and draw that one. So let me get rid of this, and we'll draw the ST, so it's running across the top of the figure, and then RV, that's dotted line tells you it's running through the back of the figure. So those two are lines that would never touch each other, and they're not parallel lines. All right, a couple more that your classmates had. We had this pair, VW and RS, and finally this pair, RV and TU. So you can see altogether we had 8 pairs of skewed lines. You can't have a skewed line. They have to be skewed to each other. All right, let's move on. Multi-step angle geometry. So the first question was, how much is angle X? And I kind of jumped ahead. Let's get rid of that for just a minute, because we're actually going to solve angle A first. Angle A is one that you can solve with the information that's currently given. Here's what we know. We know that this is a right angle. We know that because we know that this is 180 degrees altogether, and this is a 90. That's what that box tells us. So the other side has to be a 90 also. So then we've got 90 degrees right here. That's A plus 20 makes 90. Take away the 20, and we find that A is 70 degrees. All right, now it gets tricky. Now we have to move all the way down, and we're trying to find angle B. And we're going to go on a little Easter egg hunt, or a little treasure hunt here. We're going to find something, and that's going to find us something. It's kind of like playing a puzzle. So the first one we're going to find is X, and here's how we find X. Let me show you the equation and then explain it to you. So here's what we know about X. We know that when you take this, you have 180 degrees. These two angles together make 180. They are supplementary. So since those are supplementary angles, they equal 180, and we're given 148. If we take the 148 away, what's left is the X. X plus 148 makes 180. Take away the 148. What you get left over is the X, and that's 32 degrees. Next, then, we're going to get the Y. So what do we have to look for? Well, we have to rely on what we know about triangles. This is a total of 180 degrees. That not very well drawn orange triangle I just created. That's 180. So here's our equation to solve that one. Let me get rid of the X equation just so it's not distracting. You can always go back and replay the video. So here is how we get Y. We know that 20 plus X plus Y makes 180. We know that X is a 32. This was X right here. Y plus X plus 20 makes 180. X is actually 32, so add the 32 and the 20, you get 52. Y plus 52 makes 180. Take away the 52, and we find that Y is 128 degrees. So now we know X and Y. And that was the end of the clues that I gave you. To get all the way down to B, we're going to want to solve for 2 more angles. We're going to want to solve angle V right there. And we're going to want to solve angle Z right there. So let's move into doing that. Let me get rid of this. Again, you can replay the video and look at that anytime you want to. And let's bring out how we solve for angle V. So solving for angle V, and this wasn't something you had to add to your test, but it's a way that you can work your way all the way down to getting B. To solve for angle V, we know that Y plus V equals 180. This, again, is an example of supplementary angle. So we're going to figure out V by taking away the 128 that we figured Y was. There's our 128 for Y. Take that away. What's left is V, 52 degrees. So there's not a box to put that. I didn't say you had to find that, but this is 52 degrees. That then gets us down to angle Z. Once again, we have a triangle. So right here, there's a triangle again. Total's 180. So to get that angle that I labeled Z, let me get this one out of the way a bit and grab this one. To get Z, we have A plus V plus Z makes 180. That was these three. We already know A is 70, and we just figured out V is 52. Add those together, you get 122 plus Z makes 180. Take away the 122 on both sides, and you're left with 58 for Z. That's that angle is 58. And you probably already recognize, wait a minute, if that's 58, B is also 58 because we have our good friends vertical angles. All right, so play that again if you need to. Watch the different equations that I worked out and then shrunk so we wouldn't be distracted by them. Remember, that's the advantage of doing this with video. You can go back and replay it as often as you need to get through certain sections so you really understand them. On to scale drawings. So the first thing, and the reason I put this dotted line on the test so that you would think about the top section, you're going to do that before you worry about the scale factor. So they ask us to find both the area and perimeter of this rectangle that's already labeled. To find its area, we need to multiply the length and the width. That's the method of finding area. And to find its perimeter, we need to add all the sides. That's the method for getting the perimeter of a rectangle. So think about those first two. Now we're ready to move to scale factor. So here's the scale factor we're given, 5. That means everything is 5 times bigger. All right, so when you look at the new sides, you're thinking, oh, they have to be 5 times bigger than the originals. So to get that 5 times bigger of the top, we take the original top, 6 centimeters, we multiply it by the scale factor, 5, and we make it 5 times bigger, 30 centimeters. To get the side, we do the same thing. We take the original side, 2 centimeters, right here, 2 centimeters. Let's just, highlighters are great things. 2 centimeters right there. Just like on the first one, the original side was 6. So this was 6 times the scale factor. So 2 centimeters times the scale factor of 5, 10 centimeters. Now we're ready to get the new area, 30 times 10, and the new perimeter, add up all the sides, 30 plus 10 plus 30 plus 10. Okay, to the back of the test. So on the back, you had a problem that you were overall pretty successful with. I think you have done this enough now to feel like you can do these problems. You were asked to find x and then fill in the 2 boxes. Here is the equation for finding x. We're going to take the 58 and the x, add them together, and get 180. We know that this straight line represents 180 degrees, so when you have 2 angles on that line, they total 180. And since they total 180, since they total 180, if you add the x and the 58, you get 180. Take away the 58, you get the value of x. You get 122 degrees. Then you had to identify the missing angles, the angles in the boxes, and these were great because these were both examples of vertical angles. So I think a lot of you, when you got the 120, you said, wait a minute, if that's 120, so's that box, because they're vertical. And you looked at the original 58 and you said, wait a minute, if that's 58, so's that box, because they're vertical. So now you have all of your answers for number 6. All right. So re-watch this as much as you need to. Come in with questions and know that you're going to see similar questions, especially to the front half of the test, similar questions when we test again. I look forward to seeing you in class. Bye-bye.